In March 1493, the battered Niña returned to Spain. Columbus, its captain, had not found Asia, but brought tales of a new world. His arrival electrified Spain. The news spread rapidly, captivating Europe with stories of strange lands and the promise of wealth. Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, fresh from the Reconquista, saw Columbus as the answer to their ambitions. They welcomed him in Barcelona as a hero, parading him with indigenous captives, parrots, and gold, proof of his discovery. Columbus described the islands as a paradise, ripe for exploitation and conversion, painting a picture of docile natives and abundant resources. This was exactly what the monarchs wanted to hear, justifying their investment and fueling plans for a much larger second voyage. For ordinary Spaniards, the news was a mix of wonder and religious fervor. The idea of undiscovered lands was mind-boggling. Spain, newly unified and assertive, now saw a chance to spread its faith and power across the ocean. Columbus's stories fired the imaginations of would-be conquistadors and missionaries. 1493 was not just Columbus's homecoming. It was the year Spain's destiny changed forever. Columbus's discovery sparked a crisis between Spain and Portugal, both vying for dominance at sea. Portugal, alarmed by Spain's sudden success, claimed the new lands fell within its rights by earlier papal decrees. Tensions rose, threatening war. Both monarchies appealed to Pope Alexander VI, a Spaniard sympathetic to Spain. In May 1493, he issued the Inter Caetera Bull, drawing a line down the globe, lands west to Spain, east to Portugal. The Portuguese objected, leading to the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494, which shifted the line further west. This seemingly minor change gave Portugal claim to Brazil, shaping the future of South America. The world was now, in theory, split between two empires. The Church's power was on full display, dividing lands it had never seen, ignoring the millions already living there. For Rome, Madrid and Lisbon, the world was a blank slate to be claimed and exploited. The papal bulls justified the coming age of colonialism. The fate of continents was decided in European courts and papal chambers. Spain's triumph sent shockwaves through Europe. In Italy, the news unsettled city-states like Venice and Genoa, whose trade routes were now threatened. Florentine Amerigo Vespucci quickly realized these lands were not Asia, but a new world. Italy's thinkers and bankers grasped the implications, but their divided states could not act. France, under Charles VIII, was focused on invading Italy, not the Atlantic. Overseas ambitions would wait. England's Henry VII, cautious after civil war, had declined Columbus's proposal. But by 1496, he would send John Cabot west, laying England's future claims. Across Europe, the center of gravity began shifting from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic. Spain and Portugal became the new powers, their ports bustling with ambition. Old powers like Venice began to fade, while England and France watched, learning and preparing. The world was expanding, and the map of power was being redrawn. Each voyage westward changed Europe's future. Spain wasted no time. By September 1493, a massive second expedition, 17 ships, over 1,000 men, set sail. This was colonization, not exploration. Soldiers, settlers, and priests aimed to build a Spanish foothold, mine gold, and convert natives. The fleet reached the Caribbean, encountering more violence than before. The Spanish, shaped by the Reconquista, were quick to use force. On Hispaniola, Columbus found his first settlement destroyed, his men killed by the Taíno after brutal demands. Undeterred, he founded La Isabela, the first European town in the Americas, but it was plagued by disease, crop failure, and mutiny. Gold was scarce, and frustration led to violence against the Taíno, who suffered forced labor and new diseases. The dream of peaceful trade vanished, replaced by exploitation and conquest. The encomienda system began, forcing natives into labor. 1493 marked the shift from discovery to colonization and the start of a brutal new order. While the Caribbean felt the shock of European arrival, the vast continents of the Americas remained unaware. In the Andes, the Inca Empire thrived under Huayna Capac, ruling a vast, organized state from Cusco. In Mexico, the Aztecs, led by Ahuitzotl, dominated with their grand capital, Tenochtitlan, and complex society. Across North America, diverse cultures flourished: mound builders in the Mississippi Valley, nomads on the plains, and confederacies like the Iroquois in the east. For these peoples, life continued as it had for centuries, untouched by distant events. The arrival of Spaniards on Caribbean islands was irrelevant to the great empires and tribes of the continents. Their calendars and concerns were their own. The storm gathering in the Atlantic was invisible. 1493 was their last year of isolation, unaware their world was about to change forever. While Europe looked west, Africa and the Middle East followed their own paths. In West Africa, the Songhai Empire under Askia the Great controlled gold and salt trade, with Timbuktu as a center of learning. The Ottomans, led by Bayezid II, ruled a vast empire from the Balkans to Egypt, profiting from traditional trade routes. The Spanish expulsion of Jews in 1492 sent many to the Ottoman Empire, enriching cities like Istanbul. On the Swahili coast, city-states like Kilwa thrived on Indian Ocean trade, oriented eastward, not toward the Atlantic. The events in the Caribbean were irrelevant to these regions, whose lives followed ancient trade patterns. Africa and the Middle East remained powerful, their concerns far removed from European exploration. The Atlantic was still a distant frontier. In Asia, life continued undisturbed by events in the Atlantic. Ming China, under the Hongji Emperor, was the world's most advanced society, stable, prosperous, and inward-looking. China had ended its great maritime voyages, seeing little value in overseas exploration. News of the New World would not reach China for decades and would be met with indifference. In India, powerful kingdoms like the Delhi Sultanate and Vijayanagara Empire thrived, their ports central to global trade. Indian merchants traded spices and textiles across the Indian Ocean, unconcerned with European ambitions. Europeans were just one group among many in Indian ports, their presence minor and unthreatening. The idea that Europe would one day dominate Asia's trade was unimaginable. In 1493, the heart of the global economy was still in the East. The year 1493 was a turning point, a world on the brink. In Europe, Columbus's return launched Spain into an imperial age, and the papal division of the globe set the rules for global competition. The Atlantic began to eclipse the Mediterranean as the center of power. In the Americas, the arrival of Columbus's second voyage marked the start of conquest and catastrophe for indigenous peoples. Yet, for most of the world, life went on unchanged. Africa, the Middle East, India, and China remained powerful and self-contained. The idea that Europe would soon upend the global order seemed impossible. But the first threads of a new interconnected world had been spun. 1493 was the last year of the old world, before histories collided and everything changed.